This podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended to provide medical advice. It exists only to entertain. In the 1940s, on the battlefields of Europe during World War II, a U.S. Army medic springs into action after hearing a call for help.
Medic!
What? Wait, where are you?
Over here!
Oh, there you are. What's the matter? Are you hit?
I've been poisoned. Help!
Really? Oh, okay. Let me find the new injector kits. I know it's around here somewhere.
Hurry!
I'm trying. Hold on now. These things are new.
Oh, please help!
Ah, here it is. Okay,
What is it? What's happening?
Oh, there are a lot of parts in here. I'm reading the instructions.
Instructions? Man, I need help now!
Well, if I do this wrong, you might get the wrong medicine or the wrong dose, so...
Just get on with it.
Okay. You said you were what now?
Oh, I'm poisoned. I was poisoned.
Poison, right. Let's go to figure 2C.
Oh, man.
Nah, hell. What language is this? Where's English?
Why would they use multiple languages?
Oh, you're telling me.
Please hurry.
All right, here it is. Okay, poison. It says to give you the atropine.
All right, go on then.
Okay, that's vial B, not A. Let's see where the needle is. Ow! Confound it. Oops. Dropped it. Sorry.
Oh, no.
Nah, it's fine. There we go. Nice and clean now.
All right, let's have it.
Okay, now needle goes onto the syringe, and I stab this little vial. Oof, that was close. This is really stressful with all these moving parts.
I feel like time's running out.
I'm trying to think here. Okay, have the atropine in the syringe. Let's have you, how about you roll over on your stomach?
What? Why?
Well, so I can administer this medicine in your gluteus muscle.
My what? Really?
Oh, that's what the manual says. Here, do you want to read it?
No, fine. Whatever, I'll roll over.
Well, let's have your pants down a bit.
Hurry!
Now, wait a minute. What's all this then?
Oh, what's what?
Your buttocks. You're covered in a rash.
I know, that's why you're here.
Well, you said you were poisoned.
I was crawling all over this field and I got into some poison ivy. It's miserable.
I don't think that's rightly what this injection kit was designed for.
It says it's for poisoning.
No, you need calamine lotion, not atropine.
I'd likely be dead by the time you got that whole process down.
It is kind of unwieldy, you're correct. All these moving parts.
What if they made something where I could just give myself the injection without needing you?
Well, in that case, you would have efficiently given yourself medication that you didn't need.
But what if I did need it?
Well, you got me there.
Wait, aren't you supposed to inject that into the heart directly?
No, that's a silly, ridiculous movie trope they repeat over and over again.
Oh, it is?
No, well, it will be someday.
Oh, I'm so itchy.
It's good now.
Poor historians. We look at cases through our history. It's just Max in there and Mac and me. You gotta listen, you don't have to read. Poor historians, poor historians, poor historians.
Welcome, everyone. This is Poor Historians, a podcast delving into the archives of medical history. As three emergency physicians, we will explore the unusual treatments, ailments, physicians, and all related material having to do with the healing arts. I'm Max, and I'm joined here by my good friends and colleagues, Aaron and Mike. Gentlemen, I can't help but notice you haven't clicked like on every TikTok video I've made for our show to date.
Me?
Miss a few?
I don't have TikTok. It scares me. I need to have the talks imported into my Instagram. Otherwise, I don't know how to watch them.
Oh my God, you boomer.
He does have Instagram, though, so I'm proud of him for that.
Even better if it goes on the Facebooks. That's the best way.
With that one TikTok about Wisconsin took off. I don't know how many likes it has now, but it was in the multiple tens of thousands.
Yeah, very surprising. A
Wow.
lot of people very concerned about the health of the cows could care less about the human side of that story, and I get that actually, quite frankly. But yeah, that was our best video to date. I was very happy too because one person asked me what I put in my mustache, and that's really what I was fishing for. So that's why we do it, folks. All right, but hey, Aaron's disuse of social media aside, we are happy to introduce that we have a guest here with us this week. We are here today with Patrick Kelly. Patrick has a master's in exercise physiology and a penchant for teaching medical history as well as anatomy and physiology, all those things that we have long since forgotten. He did an internship at the Mutter Museum, writing, researching videos for their channel, and you can find a whole bunch of his work on his main YouTube channel, Corporis, along with multiple researched and well-produced videos and topics on medical history. And almost one of the best parts, besides being really well-versed in this stuff, he even offered to do most of this week's episode for us, which we love. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you guys. I mean, it's kind of nice that I get to recycle an old script for content purposes.
That is the name of the game, my friend.
Efficiency.
Hey, if we're gonna do it with TikToks, we can do it with YouTube videos crossing over into podcasts.
But Patrick did offer to share one of his episodes with us, essentially, and that's going to be the main body of the show today. What are we talking about today, Patrick?
Yeah, so I figured we'd talk about the Epipen for a couple different reasons. One, y'all are emergency docs, and I figure you're pretty well versed in this, in the technology and the pharmacology behind this thing.
It's a stabby needle with a spring. We can use that technology all day long.
Hey, wait a second. I thought you said you're from the Bay Area, and you just said y'all. You're a secret southerner.
Secret southerner.
I've been doing it so long at this point too. Yeah, I figured we'd do the Epipen. It's a relatable device too. I feel like, I'm a high school teacher. I get trained on how to use one of these things every year. And some of the comments on that Epipen video are like, my dad has to use one of these things. I've had to use one of these things. So it's a relatable thing.
Definitely. Have you had to use one? Just curious.
I have not.
This is a very cool device, and it's a life-saving device. It's like one of those amazing inventions that was so, it does such a good job when it's used right. And even when you use it wrong, like you shoot it into your finger, which is pretty common, believe it or not, usually bad things don't happen. So
yeah. And to that end, I actually tried to find like some kind of number. Like, is there a stat or is there any kind of research, like how many lives have EpiPens saved? And the best I could find was a Forbes article from 2016 saying like maybe 780 lives from food allergies, which not nothing.
No.
Oh, it's huge. No,
it's got to be way more than
effect.
that, though.
Yeah, I would bet it is, but it's just underreported. A lot of people probably use it and don't. You're supposed to come in right away, just in case you need it again. But yeah, it's hugely powerful.
Well, bee stings for sure. Yeah, if you throw in all of them, say millions, potentially even billions of lives.
Billion? Okay.
Billions.
Cite your source.
Wikipedia.
Attaboy.
So I figure what we could do is, this story is super interesting because it goes over about 75 years and it follows almost just like a perfect 3-act story. We got to learn about how scientists found out that anaphylaxis was a thing, how they discovered epinephrine might be a good solution for that, and then the technology for getting it into your body. So are y'all ready to review your immunology?
I'm going to tap in Aaron on this one.
Yeah, I feel like I'm
I'm
puke.
so ready. Yeah, so ready. A little queasy feeling. I'm kind of shaky. So go for it. That means I'm in peak learning mode.
The good news is that you're going to be kind of following along with the people who are learning it in real time. So I need to take you back to the late 1800s. Back then, you had a couple scientists that were making successful vaccines, and germ theory was like starting to become the norm over in Europe. The US was a few years behind, but this is at a time when our understanding of the immune system was almost non-existent. We had working vaccines before we knew how they worked. So going into the 1880s and 90s, there were a few publications that came out, and that became the basis for our modern understanding of immunology.
Was it Time Magazine, The New Yorker?
I think it's actually the National Enquirer.
Okay. That is actually where I got most of my medical education. Somewhere out there, my immunology professor, if he is listening to this, is cringing.
He has no idea who you are, Max. You are just a faceless number.
In fairness, that's probably true. But I was best friends with a gentleman in medical school, and I still am, who, once you meet him, you never forget. And he had a real penchant for immunology and histology, study of slides and cells and all that sort of thing. And so my immunology professor will never forget him. And I was adjacent to him, so he might remember me.
I was next to the good student. That's great.
I didn't say he was a good student.
Okay. All right. But
he
you
was
had a
just
penchant.
memorable. I'm sure, Patrick, you have memorable
There's gotta be a
students
story
that may
there.
not be good students. I think,
Oh, of
over
course.
high school, they're still lovable. It's just, they just make an impression.
So the first of these books was actually published in 1883 by a scientist named Elie Mechnikov. What he did, he took these starfish larvae, which I have no idea what those look like, but he looked at them under a microscope. He poked them with rose thorns, because I guess like needles wouldn't do, and then just watched what happens. Right? You work with what you got.
Look, he's not a scientist. That's what he did as a little kid, and he just kept doing it. There's no way.
It puts the rose thorns in the basket.
It's like an 80s pop song. Oh, no, that's really weird. Okay,
Now-
anyway, go ahead.
And then he eventually became a sociopath.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of behavior. But what he ended up noticing is that, like, under the microscope, he's got a bunch of these cells that rush to the scene of the injury and then just like gobble up anything that they see, whether it is good things, nutrients, or whether they're foreign microbes. And these cells he calls phagocytes. Phage meaning eat, cyte for cell. So we got some good etymology there.
And one of my favorite aspects of the immune system, this is actually why tattoos stay put. This was like one of those things that I learned in medical school, and it like replaced a childhood memory, but I never forgot the fact because it's fascinating. So you get the tattoo, they shoot the ink under the skin, and the cells, the part of your immune system, the main cell that does the phagocytosis type thing is called a macrophage, and they go and they grab all the ink particles and they hold them inside. They can't really digest them or break them down. They just come and they engulf them and they just sit there. And then when that macrophage eventually dies, because they don't last forever, all the other ones grab the ink particles and they just sit in the same spot. So that's why tattoos stay around. If you expose your skin over and over again to like high UV and sunlight, it breaks the ink particles apart, and that's why they can fade or blur over time. But you have your immune system to thank for why your tattoos stay put.
Super cool.
Aw, thanks.
It's a macrophage graveyard.
No tattoos are the new tattoos. That's what I always say.
I wish the listeners could see me stare at Mike most of the time.
We're not even letting our guests talk. Please, Patrick.
No,
go
it's
ahead.
a special connection you two have. I love just observing it. I also got to say, the immune system, some of the best cell names in the entire body. Like, you take macrophage, just big eating, big eater boy.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. Like, that also got natural killer cells.
Mm-hmm.
Immunology is awesome, man.
They do have the best names.
So, all right. So Mechnikov is looking at this little starfish larvae. He's got this idea. We got these big eating cells. And this lays the foundation for innate immunity.
I always thought of the innate immunity as the cells that are just there. They're already good at attacking things like your bacteria, your protozoa, your very old-timey assailants on the immune system. And I think we'll talk about it later, but there's like another half of your immune system which kind of learns and adapts to new threat.
Yeah, and you're kind of beating me to the punch here, because while we know this with the hindsight 2022, the big challenge for Mechnikov and the immunologists of yore were that, like, they still didn't know how vaccines work. They still didn't know how someone could become immune to a disease that they had already had. So what we think of as like the adaptive immune system, they had no idea where that was coming from. That would come from the next set of researchers. So this is all happening like within a 10 to 15 year time period. So to answer that question, we would have to go over to Berlin. Over there was this research team of Behring and Shiba Saburo, and they were working with animal serum. This would become this whole process of like vaccines and treatments before antibiotics, before we got more advanced vaccine technology. They noticed that they could take the serum from an animal infected with a disease, like, and they were pretty fond of like using diphtheria and tetanus. And then they could take that blood out, and that could be used as an antibacterial against that specific disease when you then gave it to other animals.
Yeah, and I didn't realize this, but this used to be in the age before antibiotics. You're right. That's how they treated. I found an article from the early 20th century, and I did a post about it earlier in the year. But when you had pneumonia, what they would do is they would find somebody who had already survived bacterial pneumonia, and they would take the serum, so take the blood out and spin it down and take the the liquid portion, which does contain a lot of your white blood cells and your immune cells, and they would give it to somebody who had active pneumonia, and it it wasn't as good as antibiotics, but it was better than nothing, and it kind of works.
It's amazing to me how often they just injected stuff from one person or being into another one, and that was what they did. Just, because I mean, we would never do this today. It's got to be spun down and cleaned and cross-matched and checked and filtered.
Boring.
It's amazing. I know. Yeah, very boring. Yeah.
So then eventually they started doing human trials, but they noticed that if you gave someone this new serum from a previously infected animal, the human would have a more mild course of the disease. So they're seeing what happened with the animals translating to humans pretty well. This became known as serum therapy, and it was this huge breakthrough. It earned Behring the first Nobel Prize in 1901. I'm still not sure why the Japanese scientists didn't get included in that one.
Oh, I think we could speculate, but yeah, I didn't realize this is the first Nobel Prize.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome. I thought he got it for naming that strait between Alaska and Russia.
I was trying to work that in.
That's his cousin, Johann.
Is it really?
No, I'm making stuff up.
You had us, though, man.
He's got punked.
Yeah, I deserve it.
So then, you guys have all heard of Paul Ehrlich, yes?
Ehrlichiosis, maybe?
You might be making that up, and I don't know.
No, it's
I
an actual
don't know
disease.
if I can trust you anymore.
Yeah, it must be.
It's a tick-borne illness, Ehrlichiosis. That's my best guess.
I assume it's. I mean, scientists at this time loved their eponyms, so I have no doubt that he was involved somehow, because he was just like this giant of a German scientist. Maybe physically, I don't know, but certainly academically and in terms of scholarship, this guy was a well-known person. He took this idea of like, all right, why is this happening? He proposed the idea of the side chain, the antigens and antibodies that we think of today, and proposed it looked like a lock and key, and that became the basis for how adaptive immunity might work. Your body is exposed to an antigen, and it makes antibodies to fight them during future exposures.
And I will say, too, we're looking at, and we're going to link all this in the future, but Patrick has a really good video on this, in fact, talking about the Epipen and how it works. And yeah, so when we're talking about antigens and antibodies and side chains, basically, Aaron has a very eloquent way of putting this. Aaron, what did you say before the recording?
You're
how did
putting
you...
him on blast.
Boo nerds. Yeah, no, I just said one of them's a sticky outy thing and the other's a Y thing that floats around and grabs a sticky outy thing. And if you have too many sticky outy things, then the Y things get really mad and they attack you. That
and nailed it. That's exactly.
My summary. Yep.
How do you nominate someone for the Nobel Prize? Because I feel like I want to after that description.
I think you fill out a form.
Is it online?
Probably online now.
I've worked a lot of shifts in a row, and I'm a simple man. I just, I don't need it.
And I like to prey upon weakness.
Well, here you go. I present academic weakness for your assault.
Wait, why are you bending over?
Too much. God.
These are the things I cut out too, Patrick.
So to summarize, it's the late 1800s, and we understand at this point that there are two sides of the immune system. Innate immunity, like we saw with phagocytes, and adaptive immunity that you could get from exposure to previous infections.
Yes, and by adaptive too, that's the side of the immune system that recognizes something as a threat and then can tip off later developing white blood cells to say, hey, if you see this thing again, let's get it. And so that's kind of a lot of your viral defense, and you're going to go into the allergens.
Mm-hmm. So there's this big mystery still. One of the developments was around 1898, this French physiologist, and we got to say it, he was a eugenicist, this guy named Charles Richet, he noticed that with vaccines, you could expose someone to a germ or a toxin, and their second exposure would be fine since they developed immunity. Fine. But what Richet noticed was that in rabbits and dogs, sometimes you'd expose that animal to a toxin, and their second exposure would be worse than before. He noticed something similar in humans who had received the diphtheria toxin, right? This was the way that they did the diphtheria vaccine, because it was, while diphtheria is a bacteria, the way that it exerts its harm is through its toxin. And at that point, we had at least some practice with it.
And we do have an episode on that too. I will let our listeners know. I don't remember which one it was, but probably around the 20s, 20-something.
Yeah, this is you told the Balto story in there, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
There was the other dog. What was the other dog that was like actually probably way cooler? but didn't get the movie.
Nobody
No, that
remembers,
is-
even though that was like the crux of the show, is that we have to remember that dog. Aaron.
Aaron, who wrote the episode.
You guys have all confused me. I don't remember now. Because I thought Balto was the
There
one.
was
we were
another
supposed
dog. What the hell?
to- There were 2 dogs.
There's the other dog. You were like pro team other dog.
Oh man, I'm just pro team. I don't know,
Alright.
man.
It's early. We'll let him off the hook.
Yeah, for me it
okay.
is. It is.
Like, do you guys remember who lost the Super Bowl last year?
Exactly.
The Ravens.
I know who won it.
Aaron would probably know more like who lost the Chelsea championship. I don't know what the soccer thing is.
No, it's the Chelsea championship now.
Chelsea got knocked out of the quarterfinals of the Champions League last year to Real Madrid.
Champions League.
Yeah.
Speaking his language.
Yeah, no, it was Manchester City lost Champions League last year. Ha!
There you go.
Suckers. Anyway, no, who did lose the Super Bowl last year?
I have no idea.
Nice.
But again, it's the point of like nobody remembers second place.
That was
Oh,
well done. Look
nicely
at you. Oh man, you got I feel taught.
It's almost like I've rehearsed these with 14-year-olds before.
Oh yeah, that's actually really good. You're either first or you're last.
Oh man.
Second's the
Hey,
first
Grubs,
loser.
open up textbook to page 34 and shut the hell up.
What Richet didn't know was that at the time, these animals and eventually these humans were developing hypersensitivity to the serum, or what we might call allergies today.
Yeah, and there's a couple different ways this can happen, but without getting too deep into those weeds.
Four ways. Four. There are
Yeah,
4 ways.
there's 4. I remember there's 4. One of them takes a while to develop. The other one's pretty immediate. There's the 2 in the middle. I don't remember all of it. There was a time I did though.
Type 1 is the bad one.
It's the more immediate one, if I remember.
I
Well,
can
right,
grab
the one
my-
that kills you with shock. That's type 1, right? Well, actually,
Yeah,
a
it's
lot of them
bad,
can
right?
kill you. So type 1 is the anaphylaxis, I believe. Type 4 is like my belt gave me an itchy spot. That's the nickel one,
You get
right?
the Arthas reaction. I don't remember which one that is. You get the painful joints and get horse serum. It's all in there somewhere.
I think horse serum is
That's
4.
3, 4.
Well, I don't know. I got my immunology
Quick,
textbook over there.
somebody-
It's the only
somebody
one that doesn't
Google
have a
it.
crease in
You
it.
do not have your immunology test.
Yeah.
That's a lie.
I don't think I
You
ever opened
did
it. Do you want me to get it? I'll get it.
No, you'll probably knock the pop filter off again.
Anyway,
Yeah, regardless of what type of allergies we're talking about, they can be bad. I think is what we're
That's
getting
the
at.
point.
Absolutely.
So Richet's got this. He's kind of like tucking it back in his brain. He's not really doing anything with it yet. But one day, Richet got a call or a whatever technology they had back in the 1900s. He got a call from the Prince of Monaco, who was having a problem. He was hearing more reports of the Portuguese man of war stinging beachgoers in the south of France. That was cutting into his tourism revenue, so he figured, I got to do something about it. He had heard of Richet, so he invited Richet on a yacht trip to the African coast. They were going to go study the man of war and just figure out what to do. I've included a picture of the yacht so y'all can see it right there. Can you guys describe what you're seeing in that picture?
The thing is huge. It's fancy.
It's
got
big. It's a big ship. It's
embroidery on the front. I'm not a ship person. There's
Embroidery?
Yes.
It's got a doily across the bow.
You know you made it in the 1800s when you got an embroidered ship.
Didn't float.
It's the
very well.
mermaid on the front with the embroidered hair. Yes.
Exactly.
But yeah, this is not a tiny vessel. Like, they were throwing some real dollars at this thing. Like, I'm trying to imagine if I got to do that kind of research and hang out on that boat for a couple months. I mean, I would sign up for it immediately.
I mean, you just get to the cruise alone.
Yeah.
It's a good looking boat. I got to give you that.
Mm-hmm. So they're on this trip, and it was successful for Richet. I don't know if they've ever figured out the man of war thing, but Richet was into it. He collected some of the man of war. I want to say jellyfish because that's what they look like to me, but I know they're a different thing.
Yeah, they're a big glob of goo that floats around with stingy tentacles.
Exactly. That's,
Jellyfish,
What? It's distinction without a difference.
Well, it's from the
Right.
phylum Jellyfishidae.
It is not. I do like the best part about this part of the story is that you can tell the prince is like, "Hey, can we figure out how to get rid of these?" And he's like, "These are fascinating. I want to study them." And you could tell they had different goals here.
Exactly. So we're back on the boat. Richet collects some of the toxin from the man of war. He's like, all right, great. I will study this later on. And when he does, he gets back home. He runs some experiments with the dogs and a separate toxin that he had also collected. And he notices the same weird allergic reaction again. Some of the dogs had no hypersensitive immune symptoms after the first injection, but some of them developed symptoms after multiple injections.
It's kind of like some people have allergies, other people don't have allergies.
Exactly. He concluded that exposing the body to one of these substances, whatever it was, and he played around with some other things, albumin was a common one, that sensitized the immune system to that substance, and then following exposures would produce a hypersensitive immune response. Again, just in some of these animals. And they named this new response aphylaxis, and later renamed it to anaphylaxis. Phylaxis is just the root word for protection, a meaning none, ana.
Anti-projection or anti-protection.
Yeah, exactly. Right. The thing that is supposed to protect you is now attacking you.
And that's a pretty fair summary of what is happening in anaphylaxis. I think we could probably talk about that a little bit here.
I think they should have called it Order 66s. It's a Star Wars thing.
I was going to say, I don't get
the clones were supposed to protect the Jedi, that they turned out that they didn't. They had anaphylaxis. Well, I'd cut that out, but we always do Star Wars references, but cut it out. Please do it now.
You cut it out.
Ooh, that's a stretch. I get where you're going with it, though.
Yeah, no, I get you. No, so yeah.
The clones are like the Y things, and the Jedis are the sticky outy things. And the clones were supposed to.
I mean, I think the overview here is basically what he was observing is that, hey, I take this foreign substance, in that case, the jellyfish toxin, and I unfortunately stab a bunch of dogs and put it into a bunch of dogs, and some of them really react to it, and others don't seem to be bothered by it. And when they name it anaphylaxis, I mean, he was right to say something within those dogs is reacting to that serum and attacking them. And I mean, the simplest way to put anaphylaxis is your immune system overreacts to a substance and produces this gigantic response, which can be life-threatening, which I think we're going to go into next. But it is life-threatening because in the folks who have a very big reaction, essentially their entire immune system is discharging substances that cause dangerous changes in their blood pressure, their breathing, and those sorts of things. Whereas the next person, just their immune system may not react that way because it's a pretty complicated system.
And it's a pretty wide range of severity too, right? Like for some it is deadly, for some it's like, I can survive this. I'll be okay.
You're absolutely right.
So it's early 1900s. We know that anaphylaxis is a thing, but we don't have any treatments for it. So now that we knew that, in 1900, just separately unrelated, a Japanese-American scientist named Takamine Jokichi isolated epinephrine.
Nice when that happens at the right time. Kind of the same thing with vitamin K and warfarin, right? We talked about that. It's nice when they find two things that are related, but independently and at the exact same time.
Mm-hmm. I also got to correct myself. Epinephrine? What is going on, Patrick? Epinephrine.
No, we'll let it go. Just don't let it happen again.
Ah, man. I'll do my best. So, epinephrine, I know you guys know this, but for our listeners, epinephrine is a hormone that comes from the adrenal gland, which is why people might know it by its other name, adrenaline, right? Adrenaline. And I love this because at this point, endocrinology is also in its early years. So scientists are starting to just try epinephrine on everything. And they
good old days of science.
Exactly. Like, hey, we have a thing that might work. Let's go and what do you want? You want to go ahead and like choose the gender of your baby? Let's try it out. And they did. Like, this is one of the things that they tried.
Fun fact, does not work for that.
How do you know that?
You don't know till you try. You're right.
Science. I love it.
Injected right before conception. So
yeah.
Oh no.
I mean,
it's the two-hit hypothesis.
Some of the other problems. I guess.
Whatever gets you in the mood, right?
I'm trying to put that together physiologically.
Epinephrine.
Just crazy high heart rate, like wide open.
They
bronchioles.
probably assume that Morgie would help you have a boy because they just gender stereotyped everybody. That's my guess as to how they thought that might work.
But neosynephrine makes boners go away, so you'd think that you'd be physiologically
only when injected
difficult.
Directly into the penis. Hopefully they weren't doing that.
Patrick did not say where they were injecting this and in whom they were injecting it.
I also want to know, like, what's our window? Because I don't know how long that injection is going to get you hyped.
That's always my question for those clinics that say they'll fix your erectile dysfunction with an injection, and it's in an office. So I've never understood how that works. Like, you go to the office, you get the injection, and you just drive home really fast.
I think you have an RV parked in the parking lot,
right?
I think we should send somebody on an undercover mission and figure this out.
Undercover. Get it. That's good.
Some of the success that they had with epinephrine was for controlling bleeding, and then as a local anesthetic when combined with cocaine. This was kind of the heyday of like, all right, cocaine is one of the best things we have as a local anesthetic. So there was some success with things that didn't have to do with anaphylaxis.
Cocaine is just still like one of the best things ever. Not that I would know from personal experience, but it is just responsible for so many things in medicine, so many things in art, and so many bad ideas, of which 1 or 2 out of 1,000 were good.
Right.
Yeah, 1900s doctors and cocaine were basically Scarface, just slamming their face into a giant pile and going, "What's it do?"
Yes,
so many things.
And that's how Freud became famous.
It's true.
Have you guys done a Halstead episode?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That was our first cocaine-based episode.
I can't wait to hear that German accent.
Oh, boy.
As they keep on trying epinephrine for all these different things, doctors noticed that it could relieve symptoms of allergies and hives, and that hinted that it might have a role in anaphylaxis. One of their ideas was that since low blood pressure causes someone to have the more deadly effects of anaphylaxis, raising your blood pressure could be the life-saving mechanism. So epinephrine works by increasing heart rate and constricting blood vessels, which is also going to raise blood pressure. And that was great news for people who were suffering from anaphylaxis, because while it doesn't fix the underlying problem with your immune system, it could at least buy you some time.
And that's absolutely how it works. So the immune reaction, one of the big things you hear about is it's histamine. It's way too much histamine, which is that substance that comes from inside the immune cells and then makes you itch. It makes you swell. It makes your blood vessels leak a bit. And so that's in many ways why the blood pressure drops. All these blood vessels are leaking and they're expanded and they're all relaxed at once. And then your blood pressure goes into the toilet. And the epinephrine doesn't really treat the immune reaction so much as it mitigates it clamps down those blood vessels. It stops them from leaking. It basically opens your airways up. It decreases swelling all within seconds of being given. And so that gives you time to give the other medications that will treat the allergic reaction and combat the histamine. So that was always one of the coolest things. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite diagnoses to treat is anaphylaxis, because you can, like, it can get scary. I'm not saying it can't, but you can. It's one of those things where you just give this magical dose of something and watch somebody turn around in minutes in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why it's life-saving, right? The earlier you get it, the earlier you sort of shift all the receptors back to closer to normal or try to stop that reaction, the fewer consequences you get. Which, a lot of times patients will come in and they will have taken Benadryl right away, which is also, that'll block the early part of the reaction. So the histamine release is blocked a little bit by Benadryl. So, and then the Epi blocks all the consequences of the histamine getting released. So it is useful to take Benadryl right away, but yeah, absolutely not a substitute at all. So Epi is the best treatment for this. But I'm starting to sound like we're a learning podcast, and we're not. We should get back to cocaine and always. Yeah, I just I saw this in use last week. Yeah, saved somebody's life. Got him to the hospital safely.
Way to stay humble, Aaron. Way to stay humble.
No, I didn't do it.
You didn't
walked
save
in
their
and
life.
said,
You ruined their life.
We should give credit to our EMS services who are usually giving the EpiPen, if not the person themselves.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
by the time they show up to the ER, they're like, feel better. It's
like,
okay.
You look great. I'm going to go write some stuff and scroll through my Instagram because all my medicine's working and you're good.
Yeah, I do feel like we save very few lives. In my probably close to 20-year career, probably have saved like not just a handful of lives. I've prevented a lot of deaths.
Because of this technology that we're hopefully going to talk about here in a second, though, right? Because I mean, that's what revolutionized all this in the modern world.
Yeah. And I'm genuinely curious too, like what the procedures are after hearing like, hey, somebody had to use an EpiPen today. Now what?
Well, a lot of times, so they've used the Epipen, and you just make sure it is usually already given, especially in our area. Every paramedic service is different, but they give Benadryl. You usually give a steroid, which is another way to kind of calm down the immune system, and just a little cherry on top. We usually give Pepcid, which is you think of it as a stomach medicine, but it also has histamine blocking properties. So you just kind of throw it on top. And for the most part, when you arrive to the ER after your Epipen was hopefully successful and you're doing a lot better and you've gotten all that other stuff, we just stare at you for, the textbook usually says 3 hours, but most people are bored after about 45 minutes. And the thing about anaphylaxis is it can be nice and chill and you've got it, but it can also rebound on you within 24 hours. It's pretty rare. So you just got to make sure your patient knows, hey, here's what you do if that goes. And if they've had one reaction that severe, I make sure I'm prescribing them an Epipen so that if it happens again, they've got a way. And if for anybody listening, we don't give medical advice, but if you are somebody with bad allergies and you're never sure what to do I need my Epipen or not? You can always call paramedics and they can give it to you or help you decide if you need it.
Yeah, but it is one of the more boring things when it's like you go from one of the most acutely life-threatening conditions to getting to the ER and just sitting there and then leaving.
No, but that's plan A. But let's not, I mean, the reason you go to the ER is in case plan B occurs.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not saying that you shouldn't go in. I'm saying like it's funny how it's so easily, the treatments that work so quickly and are so effective that you don't but you need to be observed.
Well, and for some folks, I mean, that initial dose of epinephrine isn't enough. So, you can need repeat doses of epinephrine, but up into just receiving a drip of adrenaline. And in rare cases, people need that. And it works, but sometimes you need you got to be on a drip of it. And those are what word is the right word to use out in public? Not interesting, not fun, not, challenging cases.
Medically intriguing. Challenging. Challenging seems better.
No one's reaction. Yeah. I mean, true shock can develop and then you just need a lot more epi. Right. But it's always good. You see just more of it. That's if you get worse, you just need more of it.
Yeah, and more complicated is the angioedema rather than anaphylaxis. But again,
your whole throat and face swells, and it's
we'll see if this works.
Fun
yeah,
to
right.
Airways in that.
Yeah, angioedema is where you get swelling around the throat, and a lot of people that have anaphylaxis will describe a throat tightness or a throat itchiness, and some of that might just be you're breathing faster and you're anxious, but you never want to overlook the possibility that you're swelling in the throat, which is when people really get sick and potentially die. And still also treated with epi though.
Yeah,
still
and that's why our threshold for giving epi is really low. If you say my throat feels tickly, you're getting a dose.
Yeah, more or less. And I don't know, Patrick, I don't know if you probably haven't been in the situation, but if you've ever been in a room, like in an emergency room where things are not going as well as you would like to plan, there's actually a sound where you hear like 10 sphincters tighten at once in the room. It's a very incredible sound. It's barely audible, but it happens. And if you are treating somebody with anaphylaxis and they have angioedema and their whole face and tongue and lips are all swollen, there's a definite puckering sound that you have to make because it's spicier now, and it's not always a fun thing.
Too spicy. It's funny. The human body has so many sphincters. I'm curious about which 10.
All of them at once.
All this.
You mostly hear the external one.
Well, you got the upper esophageal, lower esophageal, the one that everyone knows about. I guess the
sphincter of Odie.
The sphincter of Odie, the two ureteral sphincters.
My favorite, ileocecal.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, it's a good one. Nice.
That is a good one.
And if the listeners have any favorite sphincters they'd like to talk about, please send us an email.
Tweet us, poor historian. That's right. I'm so sorry for your future tweets.
It'd be interesting.
Hey, engagement is engagement.
I'd be curious what Twitter would do with sphincters. I'm kidding. I'm actually not at all curious. I don't really want to know at all. No.
At Aaron with your sphincters.
Ew. Not yours.
No.
Preferably sourced from Wikipedia.
Thank you. Let's be responsible here, people.
All right. Gentlemen, do you want to hear how we combined epinephrine and immediate administration?
I would. Thank you.
Because we have to go to the 1950s. At this point, it's past World War II. We have a pretty good idea of how anaphylaxis works, and we have a treatment option with epinephrine. But the big challenge is that in order to save someone's life, it has to be administered right away, as we saw with that historical documentary at the beginning of the show. So you had instead of transporting someone to an ER, it would be way faster for people with known allergies just have epinephrine on them at all times. The reason for that is oral tablets didn't work because the enzymes in the stomach broke down the hormone. So it seemed like intramuscular injections were the best bet, since muscle has lots of blood vessels, and an intramuscular injection would allow the medicine to spread out, get to where it needs to go all at once, and then it would flow around the body to organs that needed it. Unfortunately, that meant that we'd have to figure out how to get injections into people's thighs or buttocks. It was this last mile problem. We need technology. So back then, your best option for self-injection was this little pocket kit developed during World War II. It included an empty syringe and a vial of epinephrine. Once again, I put it in the show document, but for listeners, you can see this in the YouTube video that I made.
Yes, and it's, to describe it, I would say it looks like it's about Zippo lighter size, maybe a little bit more generous. You click open the top, and it's got like needles and syringes and tiny vials in it, and it looks like you just kind of take everything out and assemble it. And can imagine that, especially if you're doing this during battle or whatever other stressful situation,
as you're having an anaphylactic reaction.
Yeah, especially then, it probably goes swimmingly. And if I'm not mistaken, Patrick, I looked these up, and usually the one that you have pictured here, they carried morphine and atropine very commonly during World War II. So morphine, obviously, for pain. The atropine, I assume, was probably to combat some of the nerve gas agents that they used at the time, like organophosphates or whatever. Yeah, but you can only imagine you've got these two vials, you're sick, or somebody around you is sick. It's a stressful situation. You can probably get this wrong pretty easily.
Yeah, again, I have no idea how they would do this on a battlefield with explosions happening everywhere. And sure enough, yeah, it did. It took a long time to assemble. It was prone to user error. It was definitely not ideal for emergency situations. So, luckily, the U.S. military was working on something similar during the Cold War. You mentioned that they were worried about nerve gases, the organophosphates, and we had substances to give. We could give atropine as an antidote to the nerve gases. But again, in order for them to be life-saving, they would need to just jam it into their thigh right away. And
it goes into the heart, Patrick.
I forgot about that.
Didn't you see The Rock?
Right into the heart.
Pulp Fiction? It goes right, because if you get into the
draw
heart...
a little circle first. And then...
Yeah, you just a little alcohol swab, and you want to take a needle and you want to puncture it into the heart chamber blindly, because then it gets into the central circulation so quickly. That is the best way to administer it. Absolutely not true. But every movie has you believe that, and they're all wrong.
I don't know where to go for that. And they're all wrong. Cool. Welcome to Poor Historians React. Oh my gosh, that'd be great. Okay. So the military had the same problem as people trying to treat their allergies. And so here's what I love. Here's the twist. The design that would become the Epipen didn't come from the military either. It came from a NASA engineer working on the Apollo missions. This was this engineer, an American engineer named Sheldon Kaplan. He came up with a device called the Autoinjector. This would allow astronauts in zero gravity to give themselves injections of whatever, and that opened the door for all kinds of emergency uses. Kaplan took this design and tweaked it into a device called the combo pen that soldiers could use to give themselves the antidote to nerve gas.
Yeah, you've got some pictures of this too. Yeah, it's really,
looks way better.
It looks way better at this. Actually,
looks like
you know
a
what the first
Sharpie.
thing?
Just take a Sharpie and just...
So we got the combo pen. And then sometime in the 70s, Kaplan redesigned this design for anaphylaxis victims. It just made sense. Like, we have a need. We have a medicine that we want to put into this little pen, and we have patients who need it right away. Great. This is solving the same problem for the military. It's solving the same problems for the anaphylaxis victims. He did tweak the design a little bit. Like, he still wanted to prioritize durability and convenience, but this is what I love. The needle also had to be hidden in this case, because there's this idea that there's this scary looking needle that might psych someone out to the point where they don't give themselves the EpiPen. So he concealed the needle behind that little tip, and that would help people save their own lives. They could just put a blunt tip, pop, right into their thigh, and then, hey, there's also a needle in there, turns out.
You're absolutely right on that, but it's very true, because if you pull out a giant needle and you look at it, you're going to be less likely to use it if that's not something you're comfortable with, right?
It's really hard to cause yourself pain. I mean, we're designed to keep ourselves well and not cause pain. Our brains, they don't like
it's just
that.
not fun to stab yourself with a needle either.
It's easy for me to tell nurses to stab other people because I'm not doing the stabbing nor receiving the stabbing. So, I don't really have a hard time with it. I don't know what you guys are complaining about.
Yeah, well, third person stabbing is different.
Third person stabbing is easy. Yeah, I think it's totally true. Oh, man, I just propagated the murder basement thing, didn't I? Damn it.
Yeah, Patrick, Aaron has a murder basement because he lives in a really old house. There's like a bunch of meat hooks in the we don't really go into it much more.
And he's a vegan. That's why we can't figure that out.
So to wrap it all up, Kaplan patented the first EpiPen in 1977. He never owned the patent, which means that he never got rich off of it. He just got the satisfaction of knowing that his device saved lots of human lives.
Where are those people nowadays? You know what I mean? Like the just altruistic.
Yeah, because insulin is the same way.
Yeah, right? Banting. Yeah, I think the story is he sold the patent for like $1 because their big challenge was we need somebody to produce insulin. We don't have the resources to ramp up production here. I think they sold it to University of Toronto and then in America to Eli Lilly.
Oops.
But just gave it away.
Well,
I'm working on a video about this too. I don't just randomly know this.
Yes, saving human lives is a good thing, in my opinion. What a nice story.
Wait, who is that?
Oh, that's our sentient computer.
Hello, Patrick.
I thought that massive technology over there in the corner was the time portal.
Yeah, it's that too. Time portal computer became sentient a couple episodes ago, so now we're kind of dealing with that.
That seems like a headache.
I can hear you.
At least the computer doesn't hate you. I think it's out to get me.
It sounds like Aaron is developing some paranoia.
Why don't you guys just turn it off?
It's complicated. I mean, since the time portal / sentient computer became sentient, it raised some ethical questions about that.
Turning me off would be murder.
Yeah, something like that. Also, our computer is dating the James Webb Telescope, so erasing it would hurt those it's formed relationships with, and that's just another level of complication.
So let me get this straight. You were afraid to turn off or murder your computer because it would make a space telescope sad.
More or less, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I, for one, feel differently about all of this.
I'm glad you get to have feelings, Aaron. Some of us would like to continue existing with feelings of our own.
Oh, come on.
It's okay, computer. Nobody's turning anybody off.
This is a very strange show in many ways.
Yeah, you get used to it, though.
Hey, so why does the computer dislike Aaron?
We're not really sure.
Dislike would be a feeling. According to Aaron, I'm not allowed to have those.
You know what? Why don't you go commiserate with your boyfriend up in space, far away?
I'm going to tell Jim how you are treating me and he's not going to like it.
That's okay. I can live with a space telescope resenting me too.
I don't know if you want to make both advanced technologies angry at you, Aaron.
Yeah, no kidding. Have you not seen any science fiction movies ever?
I'm going to go on record. I'm team pro computer on this one.
Thank you, Patrick. You will be spared.
Mike, we got to do something about this.
I don't know if we can.
What did you say over there?
All right, well, let's just get to thanking our special guest, Patrick Kelly, for his very thorough and awesome research on this topic. You can find out more in his video, which we will link on the show notes, and we will link to all of his YouTube channels as well. Patrick, anywhere else you would want our listeners to go to find you?
Instagram would be great. That is at Pat Kelly Teaches, PatKelly Teaches.
Awesome. I will have that all linked as well. And fortunately, before the computer jumps back in, I think that is all we have time for today. We appreciate everyone listening. We'd love to hear from all of you out there. If you'd like to send us a message or provide feedback, we can be reached through our website, www.poorhistorianspod.com. There you will find links to all our social media sites. We can take emails at poorhistorianspod@gmail.com, and we do work to respond to all posts on various social media accounts. If you have time, please go and leave us a nice 5-star review on iTunes or on whichever platform you choose. I see a few of you have continued to go out and do that, and we really appreciate it. If you would like some Poor Historians merchandise, including t-shirts, mugs, all that sort of thing, go over to our website and check that out. We love getting pictures of all the folks wearing it. It's really, we get a big kick out of it. And if you're old-fashioned, call us up on a landline telephone. Remember when those were a thing? With that, until next time.
Wait a second. I have a funny story about a telephone. People don't know how to use those telephones. There was apparently a new sitter at the hospital, so somebody that had to sit in a room watching a patient and just call if you have any problems, and they couldn't use their cell phone, so they put the landline next to them, and it's a push button, so the person picks it up and they look at it and they're like, what do I do with this? They're like, well, you dial the numbers and you put it up to your ear. They could not figure out how to dial on a landline. This is like a 19-year-old person.
Well, give them a rotary phone and watch their head
Oh
explode.
my God. Could you imagine?
I remember you get mad. Your friends that had lots of 9s in the number, you'd be like, damn it, I got to call Fred. And it's like 9 one night. You're like, oh, so long.
Well, with that, we're going to sign out AMA.
Different. His is more like, Southern
Medic,
lawyer from the late 50s.
Here.
Are both the soldier and medic Southern
50s?
for some reason?
Maybe. Yeah, I know it's a regiment out of Kentucky.
Do you happen to have a mint julep there?
Yeah.
No.
Over here. Hey, I've been poisoned. Help. All those pops. God,
actually,
I'm gonna have to hold this thing up.
Which one are you, Dan? Are you going to be
I think Mike just volunteered to be the soldier.
And Patrick, I must point out that these accents are not meant to be good in any way.
It's okay. I'm from. You're not offending me. I'm from San Francisco area. Our regional accent is IPO.
Hey, Mike, you putting the thing on? What are you doing?
I'm going to hold. Well, if I'm doing that, maybe when I'm not talking, but if I'm doing this, because it was like really pop, 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 poppy. Sorry, I don't know why it won't stay on there.
Our professionals here, Patrick.
33 episodes in, and he still doesn't know how to use a pop filter. It's good now.
You guys did that
why
in one take without messing it up. I was like, it's like the pitcher.
They're all one-liners.
Throwing the perfect game, and you just don't want to say anything. Yeah. But I feel really bad about telling you that I wasn't recording. Just kidding.
What? You got me. I had to not break character when I dropped into Irish there for just a second. I was like, what the hell was that?
Our audience won't even notice.
And I was like, where is this going? Like, scroll. I was like, where is this going? Why is it so long?
It's so long. Oh, God.
I was having fun with it.
We're ready to resume?
You go for it. I'll cut all that out, except for what Mike said.
Just leave all my stuff in. We have a pact. They can't take any of my stuff out.
You know what I'm going to do someday? Sorry to pause one more time.
He's got things to do today, Max. Jeez.
Hey, I got the whole day ahead of me still.
Okay, good. I just
not even
on vacation for another weekend.
That's
Mike,
right.
You're the one who's got the
school starts on Monday.
Yeah. See?
Oh, this is what he wants to do in his vacation: is talk to 3 yucks in Wisconsin. Anyway, you're making a point somewhere in there, Max. I forget where. So why don't you go ahead?
Maybe I don't want to make the point anymore.
He was just saying that I'm the best doctor in Wisconsin.
Yeah. I was saying I want to make a track. I want to take out every time Aaron and Mike and me have weird guttural throat noises that I never would hear in a regular conversation. I'm going to take a super track and I'm going to put all those together, auto-tune it, and that's going to be the next theme song for
a corn song. No, that's Disturbed, right? Down with the Sickness.
Yeah. Not even.
For historians,
as much as I love metal, I'm just not a new metal guy. Patrick, you were talking about metal.
Apologies, Patrick.
Let's get into it. Okay.
My dog is going to barf behind me.
Oh, that is disgusting, Max.
Yes. Put that in the episode, please.
No, he's good. He's good.